All right, we're going to get started. So good evening again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Chantel Smith. I'm the coordinator for recruitment and programming within the Honors College at the University of Maryland. Tonight, we'll be going over the Advanced Cybersecurity Experience for Students, aka ACES Living Learning Program, which will be presented by this Assistant Director, Cassie Harrington. Also joining us in this chat area are Dr. Jenny Lang, the Associate Director of Admissions, and a number of our current ACES students. The presentation will be about 10 to 15 minutes, but will be available in the chat area to answer your questions up until about 6:55 p.m. Please keep your sound muted for the duration of this chat, unless otherwise told. Also, please make sure to send your questions to everyone in the chat room so that we can see the questions and answers. If we miss answering your question, please just ask it again. And keep in mind, this presentation will be recorded. So if you do not want to be on camera, please turn your cameras off at this time. We'll provide our contact information at the end in case you have any additional questions later. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce our honors ambassadors that are representing ACES tonight. So first, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I am a senior. I graduated from the ACES Living Learning Program 2 years ago, and I'm currently in the ACES minor, and I am a computer engineering major.
Awesome, thank you so much. Kendall.
Hi, I'm Kendall. I'm a sophomore in the ACES Living Learning Program currently, and I'm a computer science major.
Thanks, Kendall. And last but certainly not least, Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm a senior comp sci math major, and I was in the ACES program LLP the past years before this one.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Cassie Harrington to present for ACES.
Hi, everybody. It is so nice to virtually meet all of you. I'm excited to talk with you a little bit about the ACES program this evening. All right, so you may have an idea of what cybersecurity is, but we like to start out with a general definition. So cybersecurity for ACES is comprised of an evolving set of tools, risk management approaches, technologies, trainings, and best practices that are designed to protect systems, networks, devices, and data from attacks, damage, or any unauthorized access. Our alumni from the ACES program do a wide variety of jobs in cybersecurity. They're software engineers, business analysts, researchers, cyber advisors, consultants, software development folks, systems development engineers, data scientists, the list goes on. They work at Northrop Grumman, they work at the National Security Agency, Microsoft, Tesla, Facebook, Amazon and AWS, Capital One, Google, Lockheed Martin, the Department of Defense, PayPal, and many, many more. So we want to tell you all about ACES tonight. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that ACES is the first honors cybersecurity program in the nation. It was founded in the fall of 2013, and we've been steadily growing ever since. We do take a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach to cybersecurity. It's not just technical skills, it's also the policy and the finance of cybersecurity so that students can have a really well-rounded understanding of the field. It is a 2+2 program. We have the ACES Living Learning Program, which we'll focus on tonight for those first 2 years of your college experience, your first year and your sophomore year. But we also have the ACES minor that students can participate in as well in their third and fourth year. So you can do just the LLP, just the minor if you're at UMD, or you can do both and get 4 years of cybersecurity experience, which is awesome. There are approximately 160 students in the ACES Living Learning Program and approximately 120 students in the ACES minor in any given semester. I'm also really fortunate and pleased to be able to introduce you to our ACES leadership. First of all, our director, Dr. Michelle Cuquier, who's an associate professor of reliability engineering. Our associate director, Dr. Jan Plain, who is a principal lecturer in computer science and the director of the Maryland Center for Women in Computing. Myself, Cassie Harrington, assistant director. I use she, her pronouns for folks that are trying to use those later. And then our program coordinator, Ana Gutierrez Gomez, our program administrator, Jessica Harrington, and our graduate assistants, Grace Mandato and Kim Dropshow. So we want to highlight the unique opportunities that you can get as a part of the ACES Living Learning program. The first is leadership opportunities. We have several opportunities to become a leader, practice those skills, and really hone those on your way through your UMD experience. The first is the ACES competition team. So these folks come together basically weekly to practice skills and learn new skills, and then they participate in CTFs across the region and really across the country. We also have Cyber Connect, which is our mentoring program where students can apply to the program. If they're accepted, they are paired 1-to-1 or sometimes 2-to-1 with a mentor from the cybersecurity workforce from one of the ACES partners. I'll talk about the partners a little bit later on, but Cyber Connect is really a chance to get a pulse on the workforce, what it's like to have a career in cybersecurity, and get some insider tips about the workforce and skills that you should be building. We also have the ACES Student Board. So these are leadership positions that our students are elected to. And we have first-year positions and also positions for our sophomore students in the LLP. They do professional development events, educational events, social events for students to come together. You name it, they've probably tried it. They've done GitHub workshops, they've done Halloween parties, they had an ugly sweater party, they have some peer mentoring that goes on. So many opportunities with the ACES Student Board, and they're a really great group. So if you're interested in a leadership opportunity, you can apply and serve on the board. But even if you're simply an ACES student, you're benefiting from the great work that they do. And last but not least, in terms of leadership, we have some TA opportunities. So as you progress through the ACES coursework, you have the opportunity to serve as a teaching assistant, apply to serve as a teaching assistant in some of those classes that you've already taken, which is pretty fun. So I also want to chat a little bit about these other areas, starting with our challenging coursework in the ACES curriculum. The ACES LLP citation is 15 credits, and you need to have the 3.2 cumulative GPA to earn your citation. The citation is comprised of 3 parts in terms of curriculum. The first is our foundational courses, HACS 100, which you take your first fall, HACS 101, which you take your first year spring, and HACS 200, which you take your second year in the fall. We also have seminars. So the foundation courses give students kind of that solid ground which they can build cybersecurity skills on. The seminars are really where students can explore areas of interest to them. So you have to take 2 seminars for 6 total credits, and those seminars are in policy, cybersecurity accounting and finance, reverse engineering, digital forensics, project management, puzzles, and more. And the last piece of the ACES curriculum is 3 credits of experiential learning. This is either in research or internships. And so you can explore research opportunities at UMD with UMD faculty members, or you can obtain an internship and then complete the internship reflections course, HACS 297. So lots of opportunities for breadth and depth in cybersecurity, as well as some hands-on experience with the field. Some of those internships and opportunities that I mentioned, like Cyber Connect, happen with our corporate partners. The ACES partners are incredible. They come in, chat with students, serve as mentors, do programs. They have, we have the Northrop Grumman Professional Development Night, where they kind of talk with students about interview tips or how to create your 30-second elevator pitch. And our other partners are at the National Security Agency. We have several instructors from NSA, Salesforce, Tenable, CyberCorps through the National Science Foundation, LTS, the Laboratory for Telecommunication Sciences, and the United States Secret Service. The ACES community is housed in Prince Frederick Hall. I'm lucky that I get to talk about the ACES community tonight, and I'm sure that you'll hear more about that from some of our current ACES students as well. It is absolutely the highlight. The people make ACES. And part of that is being housed together. And so we do have a 2-year live-on requirement for ACES students. You have to live on campus while you're completing the ACES LLP curriculum. Prince Frederick Hall opened in August of 2014. It includes student residential spaces, so your rooms, the ACES staff offices, the Northrop Grumman Cybersecurity Laboratory, and several classroom spaces where you might have your LLP courses. So we have quite a few cool opportunities within Prince Frederick for us to come together as a community and really build those relationships, because your peers will be the people that you work with in college and probably beyond that, people that you complete internships with, take courses with, form study groups with, and form friendships with that last beyond your time at UMD. So that concludes my short presentation. We would love for you to follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There, I really think you can get a great glimpse of the ACES community. So that's always a good place to check us out. You can also learn more at the ACES website, aces.umd.edu, or send us an email about any questions you might have at aces@umd.edu. So I know that we have several questions coming in, and I want to make sure that we get to those. So let's see. We've already answered a couple of them, but you can keep them coming. That's a great question. So we have the first question that was asked was, can you choose more than 2 seminars? And I see that Emily said, yeah, you can take as many as you want. That's excellent. Does anyone want to share maybe a great seminar that they have taken that they were really interested in?
I can actually talk to that since I took a lot of them. So the 2 that I enjoyed the most were, there was one that was security, like incident handling. So it covered, if there is a cyber attack, how is it handled? And it covered whether this was happening to a company, whether it's happening to a government, how this was handled by all the different types of entities that are out there. And it was actually taught by someone who professionally does this for the government. So it was really cool to get to have that like very in-depth explanation from him, and know that it's coming from like a real source, not just something that they read about. And it was actually taught through like a sort of role-playing type of way where like you had to think through and explain why you were making the choices you were, and he helped you figure it out for yourself. So it was less lecture-y and more hands-on.
Thanks, Emily. Another question that came in is, how much CS experience do most ACES students have going into the program?
A lot of, like, some people have like AP comp sci experience, but like there's a variety. Some people are already really good, but it's not required for you to know or have taken any classes of computer science going in. And if you don't, that's fine, because you will have a cohort of other ACES students in your classes that you can study with already.
Absolutely. A question, I would love to join ACES, but unfortunately won't be able to live on campus even after COVID. Is it best to consider another LLP? I would recommend considering another LLP because we do have that 2-year live on requirement. That being said, the other living learning programs in the Honors College are incredible. So we highly recommend all of them. Certainly we might be a little bit biased towards ACES here, but yes, we do have that 2-year requirement. And the next question was related to the 2-year requirement means 2 years living on campus or 2 years living in the ACES dorm. It does mean 2 years living in Prince Frederick Hall. Let's see, here we go. How close are the students together? Are they always collaborating together on projects to do? Any cool long-term projects going on right now between ACES students? So there's a lot of collaboration between ACES students, both for ACES coursework and also kind of beyond that in other classes if you share a similar major or taking other classes together. There are quite a few long-term projects. Several ACES students do research projects together to fulfill that experiential learning requirement. And several of the ACES alumni have gone on to found their own companies together. So I would say that's a pretty long-term project. Let's see, we're getting a bunch of questions in here, and it looks like most of those are being answered. Are you guaranteed an ACES roommate?
You're not guaranteed a roommate, but most will end up with a roommate who's in ACES just because of the nature of having entire floors that are for ACES. I know that most people on our floor my first year had ACEs roommates, but 1 or 2 didn't.
Did we cover what can students do to prepare to participate in the program?
Something that I'd say for that one is if you just start looking at, like, Python is a really simple language that you're not going to necessarily use in any of your classes, but is a good way to, like, if you've never touched coding before, get introduced to it. But you can also come in with nothing. I came in with nothing and did just fine, especially since there's such a culture of helping each other, especially through the ACES courses, since you're all taking it together, where if you are confused at any point, you just sort of turn to your left or to your right and find someone, and they're going to answer or find an answer for you. So you're never going to just sort of be floundering. So maybe just relax this summer, enjoy the summer, don't worry about school, and then start in the fall. You've got a whole nother 4 years looking ahead, so relax while you can.
Good advice. Is the internship from research requirements supposed to be finished before the end of sophomore year? So the ACES curriculum is designed to be completed in 2 years. We do have a few students that go beyond that sophomore year, but generally the experiential learning is able to be completed in those first 2 years for ACES students. Pretty significant amount of ACES students have an internship during the summer between their first and second year. And so they're able to take that internship reflections course and or seek out a research project with UMD faculty. Let's see. Go down through. Looks like y'all are covering some of those questions. What are the most common non-CS related majors in ACES?
I know we have a few computer engineering, information sciences students, but we also have a lot of people who are in the humanities, whether it's English, we have a few music majors, theater majors. So I would say, other than, because CS makes up a large population, but there are a lot of both STEM and non-STEM related majors too.
Do any ACES students study abroad in their sophomore year?
I didn't, but I know someone who was going to study abroad in Spain their sophomore year. So yes, like you can study abroad after your first 3 core classes are done with, basically.
Yep, we would recommend spring of your sophomore year if you're planning to study abroad. Several students have done that successfully. So you've already wrapped up those foundational courses. Okay, what is something you didn't know prior to joining the program that you're really happy that the program included?
I actually didn't know about how many networking events or how close they were tied to existing companies or agencies. I just sort of assumed that by taking the courses, I would know the stuff, which is fine. But having the connections actually help you get the jobs. I've had an internship every single summer, which I don't know that I would have been able to say if I hadn't done ACES, because they were the ones who got me the connections to get those jobs.
To add on to this a little bit, like, so there's 80 students in ACES, right? And ACES has a partnership with NSA where they have like 6 spots reserved just for ACES kids. And that's like very important because freshman year is often like the hardest time to get an internship because you have the conundrum of you have to get experience without having experience.
When will we get notified? Oh, Jenny got that one too. Sorry, y'all. So many questions. For the internship or research requirements for the ACES curriculum, can any of these experiences be connected with your major, assuming you're not majoring in a directly CS related field? Meaning, can an internship in your major count for those ACES requirements, or do you need a separate internship to complete ACES?
So the internship reflections class, I'm actually taking it right now. You need to have a cyber related internship if you choose to do that one, but an internship isn't actually required at all to complete all of your ACES coursework, because you can still do a research opportunity in place of that internship reflections class, same credits, same requirement. So you won't need to take or to get an extra internship just to complete your ACES certification.
The other thing that I'll add to that is it can be cybersecurity related in a non-CS field. So we've had several folks complete internships that are not at all CS related that still complete the cybersecurity component. And so it's entirely possible to do one that is related to a non-CS major that still works for ACES. What is the percentage of being accepted to ACES if you're interested in it? That really varies from year to year. We don't have a specific statistic. It is a competitive process for sure. We love that we have so many ACES or so many students interested in ACES, but we don't have like a specific like a percentage chance of being accepted. What characteristics or qualities do we look for in ACES students? What do you all think? What do you say?
I think the most like common thing is people who are willing to solve problems. As like cliche as that sounds, the entirety of cybersecurity is this is a never-ending problem. Every time we find a patch or we fix something, something new happens. So we're constantly problem solving. And to that degree, a lot of the ACES students actually do puzzle competitions together. I've seen or do like capture the flag competitions together because it's just fun puzzles to do.
Yeah, I definitely think, just kind of adding on to what Emily said, being able to learn new things and be open to new experiences, like, you know, whether it's having to learn a programming language as a theater major or having to do a debate as a CS major. We do a lot of different things in our hacks classes and core curriculum. So it's definitely, you have to be open to new experiences, even if it's not something that you plan on pursuing in the future.
Absolutely. What are some examples of research projects ACES students have worked on in the past?
So I've done 2 semesters of research now. One that was for the ACES minor, like with someone from the NSA, where we worked on developing a chatbot that could feasibly come across as someone from a specific subculture. We chose surfer dudes because we figured it was the best way to like proof of concept. So we did that. And then a lot of us actually get involved in a group on campus called Breakerspace, which is a research lab on campus run by Professor Dave Levin, where he breaks in a bunch of students and we all work on projects together. And 4 ACES students right now are all working on one of the projects in there right now with me. They're also all scattered throughout it, but the one we're working on is a genetic algorithm for censorship avoidance against nation states, which is a bunch of big fancy words that mean we're developing ways to help people in these different countries that have large amounts of censorship get access to information still. And the words might sound scary, like genetic algorithm, if you've never worked with those before, but the groups always make sure that you understand what you're doing and you're not just like thrown into a deep end. So.
Do any of the required ACES courses fulfill gen ed requirements?
I think a bunch of them fill DSSP requirements from what I can recall.
And iSeries. iSeries gets filled a lot.
Yep, and you can check out our gen ed designations for courses on the ACES website. Should things not be 100% back to normal for the upcoming fall semester, how does ACES in the online format compare to ACES during normal in-person learning?
I know for Hacks 200, and this is probably the bigger deal than the courses that you would take your freshman year, because it's a honeypot project, which means that it's a completely group-based class. We were able to still make it work. I know the groups who had people who were off campus still, we had Zoom chats, it was definitely a little bit of a difficulty, but after you start to get used to having virtual calls and talking over Slack and everything, it's definitely manageable. And I personally didn't see a difference in my like education level or experience in that class, especially.
Awesome. Is the application process just choosing ACES as your preferred LLP? You want to complete the entire preferencing form. And then if you are most interested in ACES, you can select that as your first LLP preference and provide a couple sentences about why you're interested in that program and any other preferences that you have related to other living learning programs. Were any of you first admitted as letters and sciences and then applied for CS after your sophomore year? Were you able to be at the same pace as CS students who had the major since freshman year? Anybody have a
My
letters
answer
and
for that
sciences?
one is just that the CS major can actually be completed in like 3.5 years is a lot of what I've been seeing. If you want to have heavier semesters, which not everyone wants to, which is fine. So like I didn't take my first CS course until my second semester here because I chose marching band, which was at the same time as the CS course. So, and I'm doing computer engineering, which actually has more courses total, and I'm still set to graduate on time.
And even if you don't directly get into the major when you apply, I know people, when I was taking like 131 and 132, which are kind of the introduction classes to the major, you can still take them. You just, to get into the major, sometimes you need to complete the requirements before you can reapply.
I'd like to add on, like UMD has done a pretty good job of like having enough space in like the introductory classes where other universities have like underclassmen aren't actually able to get into classes, which is unfortunate. So as a CS major, you get priority on classes for CS classes just because that's how it works. So like you might get like worse times, but you're still going to be able to like take the first few introductory classes and still graduate on time. Like a reasonable workload without like overloading is like 3.5 years for a CS major.
Awesome. Okay, do seminar courses vary year to year, or can we expect the seminar courses shown to be the ones that we will get to choose between? The seminar courses are generally standard. You should expect generally to see the list that is there. Occasionally we add a new one or one cannot be offered, but the list that is currently on the website is the list that is generally offered every year.
I'll say I personally have never had the problem of wanting to sign up for a course and it not being offered, because you only need like a certain number of students to sign up for them to then offer the course, and you can almost always convince enough people to take it with you. So
great. Let's see, I'm trying to pick some that haven't been answered yet. How interactive are ACES students with students from other LLPs like DCC?
as interactive as you want to be. I have several friends that were in DCC, and they would sometimes let me go to their lab, which they had to like get permission to do, but it was so cool to get to like go down there and see it. They live in the same building as you, so you can just go down the floor if you want to and hang out with them. They're very usually chill people that like want to hang out and do stuff. They hang on their lunch the same way we do. We've had some like inter-program activities before too that were organized by the different student boards, so that's a good way to like get to meet people from outside of ACES and like make more friends throughout the university.
Yeah, like last year we had an event with DCC that was like ACES DCC trivia competition. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to interact with other LLPs if you want to.
How difficult are, oh, go ahead, Bill.
There's a question on if like admissions to ACES is rolling or not, basically.
In terms of, sorry, looking through.
Oh, no, someone answered it. So
Yeah, I think I answered that one.
Thanks, Jenny.
Submit the form by February 22nd. You will have received equal consideration. It doesn't matter if you submitted it last week or February 22nd, as long as you submit it.
All right. Do you choose the 2 extra seminar courses during freshman year or sophomore year?
You can take, so I know I took both of mine my freshman year, but I know people who are still taking some of them this year who were sophomores. So as long as you take both of them by the end of your sophomore year, you can spread them out however you want.
You can actually technically take it all the way through the end of your senior year if you really want to. You just won't get your citation until you take the final 2. So if it doesn't end up fitting in your first 2 years, that's okay. Don't worry, like you'll still be able to get to it. It just might take a little bit longer, which is fine.
Okay. So about 68% of ACES incoming students are CS majors.
People get converted to CS though.
Yes, many of my brethren and sisters in computer engineering have switched to CS. It's
For
true.
what it's worth, people also get converted away from CS. So it probably ends up being neutral.
Yeah. We live right next to the business school, so a lot of people like see them walking by and be like, "Oh, I want to do that." Think about how close I could be to my classes, and that definitely draws some people.
If you do the LLP and then switch to the ACES minor, do you still live in Prince Frederick Hall?
So it's not a matter of switching. If you decide to leave the ACES program, like the LLP at all, I believe that then the next year you will live somewhere else. You won't get the preference for Prince Frederick since they do need to fit all of the ACES students in there. But you can also just do the minor later if you want. The minor doesn't give you any, it doesn't mean that you'll live in Prince Frederick. The minor is a separate program and it's not a living learning program, essentially.
So the ACES minor doesn't have any kind of live-on requirement as compared to the ACES Living Learning program. If you were to complete the ACES LLP citation and then also be in the ACES minor, you would join returning student housing for on-campus housing if you were still wanting to live on campus, but not necessarily guaranteed an ACES space in Prince Frederick. Is ACES a really tight community? Like everyone knows each other, or it's just a place you can find a close group of like 6 friends?
Both. I think it depends on what you want out of your college experience, but I would say that most people in ACES know each other, whether it's from like events, professional development, different seminars or courses. So I think, you can see someone's face and recognize them, but even on the floor, I know pretty much everyone in ACES on my floor. So it's like, you can interact with anyone, but also like have a close group of friends if that's what you want. But everyone's definitely tight to a decent extent.
If a student decides to switch to a different major, to business, for example, how could ACES still help them?
I can answer this one. So I'm not sure if you've noticed that the world we're living in today is heavily online, even outside of coronavirus. A lot of stuff is online, and so a lot of cybersecurity principles affect a lot of different jobs out there. Like business majors, for instance, have to consider, how would a cyber attack affect the company they're working at? How would it matter for that? And so some of the ACES courses are geared more towards that. There was a course that was the policy implications of cybersecurity. And so if you're going into government, how to consider things that are going on with cybersecurity for that, because it's something that is involved in all parts of our lives these days. So it can be involved in some way.
Does ACES have any relevant impact on the cost of paying for UMD?
It doesn't cost more. It can cost less depending on if you take advantage of certain scholarships available.
We do have the Scholarship for Service, which is a National Science Foundation grant. Emily, I don't know if you want to speak to SFS a little bit.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So SFS is basically, you can either have it for 2 years or 3 years. And it is a scholarship where they pay all of your tuition. They buy your books for you. Before coronavirus, they would pay for you to travel places, like for conferences and stuff. So I went to Disney World for a conference for cybersecurity, which was really cool. And they also pay you a stipend of $22,500 a year. So it fully will cover all of your room and board and also a little bit extra. So it's pretty nice. And in return, every summer you will work for the government, either a federal, local, tribal position. So you have to work for an agency, not just a contractor. And then for ever how many years you receive the scholarship, you'll work for that many years after you graduate. For me, the huge draw was I already knew I wanted to work for the government. So the idea of someone then just paying me to go to college for me to do what I wanted to do was a no-brainer. So yeah, now I'm graduating with money in my pocket, not in debt from college, which is amazing. And it also helps you find the positions because they have their own career fair that you have to go to every year where you get to talk to these agencies and make those connections. Yeah, it's called the Scholarship for Service, or CyberCore. I can type it in the chat so you can just like copy and paste into your web browser. You can also look on the ACES website for more information about it. The only other requirements that ACES has for it is that you give back to the community in some way, such as being part of the competition team or participating in CTFs and like being like, oh, I'm from ACES. So things like that. But it is an amazing way to help you build connections for your future job if you want to work in government, and also graduate without debt. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Thanks, Emily. Do folks maybe want to talk a little bit about the foundational courses, the HACS courses, 100, 101, 200?
So HACS 100 is definitely more about kind of like an introduction to cybersecurity. We did some basic bash scripting, and we also did a lot of like debates, so investigations into cybersecurity that weren't strictly technical. HACS 101, we definitely get more into scripting and how we can use bash, and we do some statistics. And HACS 200 is our honeypot project, where we apply things that we've learned in HACS 100 and 101 and create a honeypot in which we deploy, for whatever reason or whatever research question you want to answer, we deploy a honeypot to the internet, and we answer a question depending on how the attackers attack our honeypot, and then we do a presentation and all sorts of analysis on that.
Thanks, Kendall.
And yes, we do use shell scripts. That was a question in the
chat. Excellent. So some questions about SFS. You would apply to SFS. I put the link in the chat, the link to the ACES SFS website. You can learn a little bit more about the scholarship there. It is not automatic consideration, but you can apply after you are enrolled at UMD. Not directly related to ACES, but what percentage of students who applied as a computer science major, but instead admitted to letters and sciences as CS, as a limited enrollment program, are not able to complete the gateway requirements and get into CS? I don't know that we can speak to that directly. You should direct that question to computer science. Those folks are great, and I'm sure that they would love to assist and support, answer those questions.
So something I want to say real quick also about SFS, since someone asked about it. If you end up not ending up in the ACES LLP, you are still able to apply for SFS if you join the ACES minor. So that's another option. Also, for anyone who ends up, maybe deciding that the ACES LLP isn't for them, you can still change your mind later and join the ACES minor and get a lot of the courses that way. And also the reverse engineering course, you get to learn about a lot of tools like Ghidra, IDA Pro, the basics of, reversing a binary. You get to learn about some malware analysis, and it's all very accessible, even if you're coming in with little to no experience.
How has ACES impacted your college experience? Did it play a major role in your college experience?
So I definitely am very passionate about this one because I knew nothing about cybersecurity when I came to campus. In my first semester, Dr. Jan Plain, who's our assistant director, she sent an email out about the Women in Cybersecurity conference. So I applied for it, and then I realized that our school didn't have a chapter of Women in Cybersecurity. So I actually founded the chapter. I've met most of my friends in ACES. I've had the opportunity to join clubs, learn about internships, professional development. I think it's been a huge part of my college experience. And while you have the opportunity to make it as big or little of a part as you choose, there's definitely so many opportunities to influence you, not only academically, but personally.
A lot of the effect that ACES will have on your life is totally up to you. If you want it to just be like a little thing that you participate in as part of your classes, totally fine. If you want to get involved in every single part of ACES, from the competition team to, they also do outreach at high schools for cybersecurity. If you want to take every single course out there and like fill up your schedule, if you want to do that, that's up to you. And you have the opportunity to do that and take advantage of every single thing that they give you, including, I don't know if they did this past fall, but I know ACES also offers their own career fair where they bring in their partners, and you get to talk to them and get some like FaceTime, which is very different from if you go to the university-wide career fair where you might end up waiting in a line for like an hour, sadly, in a lot of cases. So it's really awesome to get this opportunity to get to talk to these people so easily.
Yeah, to add on to that a little bit, like I think a lot of freshmen and like have at the ACES career fair been able to get interviews from that, and that's like really important. Starting.
Are there special academic advisors for ACES students? So you will have a major advisor for your major, and then you will have an ACES advising team. And so you can meet with ACES leadership to talk about any of your ACES related, HACS related advising needs at pretty much any time. We have pretty much rolling advising appointments that you can schedule. And in a time when we're all face to face, you can just pop into our offices to ask questions too.
In a test, I used to do that a lot. I would just like go around and be like, hi, I'm stressed. How are you? And it was always really nice.
Right. Other than ACES, which LLP is popular among CS majors? I don't know that I know the answer to that.
I know a lot of them are in I know a lot of DCC people who are CS majors. I don't know if I might have confirmation bias because I see them in my classes and I see them in the dorm. I'm like, I know you, I've seen you. Wait, we're in a class together? Let's talk. Because then you get to like figure out homework together and stuff like that. And then I also know a bunch of them in UH. So
I would say you can probably find a CS major across any of the living learning programs. What are we looking for in your preference form response? And if you look at our overall application for UMD, what do we look for? So we do look at the overall application. We're considering pretty much every part of that application in equal weight. And in the preference form, we're really focusing in on the sentences that you provide about why you're interested in the ACES LLP. And I think that I can speak for everyone when I say, give us some information. Let us know a little bit about who you are, why you're interested in the LLPs that you're preferencing. That is really helpful as we're reviewing those materials. What did you consider when picking your LLP, and why did you choose ACES?
I know for me, I was looking at what was going to give me the most opportunities in like academically, like what, you know, I listened to a few of the chats. I actually went in person to like a Women in ACES event. And I just wanted to kind of see like how everyone meshed in the sense of community. And I chose ACES because actually I went to the Women in ACES event and there were two girls there who were in professional attire, and I was like, wow, they look really like professional, like they're going to go to an event. And they actually said that they were about to go see Air Force One land because of their internship with the Secret Service. So that just really left an impression on me that these are really well-rounded, successful people, and this is the kind of environment that I want to be in.
for me, it was looking at I knew that, you know, one of the points of college is to not just get the education, but to help you get a job afterwards. Because if you get an education, but you can't get a job afterwards, you're probably going to be in debt. It's going to be sad. So I wanted to find a program at any college that would be able to give me the best opportunity to succeed and the best opportunity to make the connections that I needed. And because of ACES partnerships and how open they were about that, and also their location in, the DMV area, the proximity to DC, all of that, I knew that it was going to be a good program to help me do that, to help me get the jobs that I needed. And it has. So I actually just finally accepted a full-time offer. So I'm really excited.
Is the overall
Love
topic-
it. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
So freshman year, like the freshman internship, like is going to be hard for everyone, and just because that's how it works, like companies aren't necessarily hiring freshmen as much. But I think sophomore year, like I think over half of people were able to get were able to get internships at like top tech companies like Amazon, Facebook, or whatnot, and like that's like half the student size, and that's like not considering the fact that like some people don't necessarily want that. So it's just like people are able to get opportunities that they need.
Yeah, like I interned at PayPal my freshman year, and there were 4 UMD students and 2 of us were from ACES. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity if you choose to take advantage of it.
Other questions? If there's a question that we missed, please resend it because there have been so many questions. We want to make sure that we get to as many as we possibly can. And I'll reiterate Jenny's comment in the chat. We can see, all the LLPs can see your full ranking and the answers that you gave for other LLPs. We don't take it personally. We love that you love the other LLPs. We love them too. So no hard feelings. Follow your heart. You choose what's best for you. And if it's ACES, we'd love to read that.
So Cassie, it looks like you guys did an awesome job at like answering all the questions in the chat so far. With just a few minutes left, I was wondering if it made sense to kind of go to each ambassador and just kind of say what their most memorable moment has been so far, just to kind of end the night. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I love that.
Awesome. Let's start with Emily.
Sorry, my roommates are cooking and I had to inform them that I must speak. They're making tacos. I'm very excited. So I would say that my most memorable ACES memory would actually have to be sophomore year. I got involved in ACES competition team in the spring. I'd done in the fall, and in the spring they typically did this competition where so half the group will still just be learning basic skills, doing basic CTFs, but a group of them would do this competition where you were a blue team and there's like 5 or 6 of you, and there was professional red teamers coming at the boxes you're supposed to protect. So you get set up with a network, you're supposed to protect it, it's a virtual network, and there's all these red teamers coming for you. And they gave me the position of essentially being the boss. They're like, you're really good at keeping track of things. You just yell at all of us and make sure we're on top of our tasks and do whatever we need to do. And we ended up being the top in our day, out of everyone that was doing it at the same time as us and dealing with these same attackers as us. We blew them out of the water and did amazing. And it was so cool to actually get to do that kind of competition, because CTFs are really cool. For anyone that doesn't know, CTFs are capture the flag competitions, where the flag, it's not on grass, although we have done that. It's where there are hidden codes or little phrases and stuff put on images or somewhere on the computer, and your job is to find them. So there's those competitions, but that was my first time getting to do one where you were actively trying to protect a network, and getting that opportunity as a sophomore in college to get to see this and get to be a part of it was amazing and definitely stuck with me.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Kendall?
So mine's a little bit less impressive than Emily's. I think my like best memory so far from being in ACES was last year we had an ugly sweater party and everyone came into the fifth floor lounge with their ugly sweaters, and we had games and there was hot chocolate. And I think just knowing that whether or not you do other clubs or other activities or whatever else you end up doing in college, you have these people who are there for you and support you, and you can still have friends to interact with who understand what you're going through in college, take a lot of similar classes to you, can empathize with you, can help you. So I think just like having that community and having that memory of like being at that party and everyone having fun after the end of the semester, it was just probably one of the best moments in college so far.
Thanks so much, Kendall. And last but not least, Bill.
Yeah, I think some of the most memorable parts are like just spending time together in the lounge and like playing games like Avalon, or like doing homework together with people who like you can just ask for help really quickly and everyone's like super nice. And I think like it's to like the overall point of like everyone's like super nice and like everyone's willing to help you, and you'll be able to like form bonds and develop more as a person.
Sounds wonderful. So I just wanted to say that we appreciate all of you guys for joining us. Cassie, did you have any last words before I kind of wrap this up?
Just thanks everybody for joining us to learn a little bit more about ACES. It's been great to share a little bit of our program with you. For those folks who are interested in preferencing ACES, we look forward to reading through your preferencing form.
Thanks, guys.